What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Yes, Mission Impossible 7 is here. Our cinema king, Tom Cruise, back to save the box office once again. And unsurprisingly, this movie is awesome. It's so damn good. I had an absolute blast, and it's just really great. I'm going to spoil everything, of course, but man, Mission Impossible is just our best action franchise. That's just the facts. Really, ever since 2011, with Ghost Protocol, and especially the last three movies now directed by Chris McQuarrie, Rogue Nation, Fallout back in 2018, and now Dead Reckoning. It's been a long way between Fallout to now. We made it. And this series is just absolutely chugging on all cylinders. It's so awesome. Just the use of practical effects to make absolutely riveting, thrilling set pieces. You're just not getting this level of filmmaking anywhere else from the blockbuster franchise IP space. It's not even close. And I'm going to do a direct comparison to a long-running action franchise that released a movie earlier this summer that got its clock absolutely cleaned with a similar set piece done by Mission Impossible, later in the summer. Hilarious thing about, honestly. But yeah, really great. I would say off the bat, it's probably not as tight as Mission Impossible Fallout from 2018. That is probably like arguably the pinnacle of like action filmmaking. Like that is a 5 out of 5. Like adrenaline the entire time. Amazing. Dead Reckoning Part 1 is probably not to the Fallout level, but it's not that far behind. Much like Rogue Nation, it's close. I think that just speaks to what Cruise and McQuarrie are trying to do, and they are succeeding. They are wowing, they are entertaining, they are thrilling, and they are doing stuff no one else has the courage to do, the technical means to do, whatever it might be. They continue to win. I'm really rooting for this film to have a strong box office. We're hoping the Top Gun Maverick success last year will provide a halo effect, of course, with Tom Cruise being in both movies. We will see. Interestingly, Dead Reckoning Part 1 technically released on Wednesday, but really released on Tuesday with showings all day and had even preview showings on Monday. Like releasing earlier in the week for like a 5-day weekend, if you will, as a means to maximize the use of IMAX screens and other premium format screens before Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer comes out, which has a locked-in 3-week exclusive hold on those premium screens. So that's what explains the early launch, and honestly smart, I think, too. Nolan is a force. You can't really beat him on something like that. He seemed to have his bases covered. So why not open Mission Impossible a little bit early to give people more time to see it on the best screen possible? And I saw this in IMAX, and it was absolutely worth it. Yeah. So let's get into it. Let's just get into it. Obviously, spoilers. I think it's a franchise that it's not like there's like a whole lot of like plot points to spoil. In fact, I think it's really funny how Mission Impossible treats plot. Story itself is kind of yada yada at times, but it's done in such, I think, an economical and efficient way that it's like you don't mind that the who's and the what's sometimes are a little unclear. It doesn't matter because these movies just flow and move with such a rhythm, such a finesse, despite how big and large and grand they are, that I think that's okay. So it's not like it's like huge plot points to spoil, but of course there are things to spoil. So let's get into that. Yeah, I think right off the bat, let's just decide where to go here. We have three like really prime set pieces here, kind of anchor Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 in the film. The first big set piece is, and actually I'll back it up before we get into set pieces. I think what's really cool about the antagonist, the villain of Dead Reckoning Part 1, is actually how hilariously prescient it is. Dead Reckoning Part 1 was supposed to come out in the past. This is movies that the budget ballooned because it had so many COVID starts and stops with its production that it took a while for this movie to come out. Here it is. And our villain is AI. Artificial intelligence is the bad guy. It's certainly not a new villain when it comes to movies. Look no further than, of course, Terminator 2, most famously. But given the AI year we have in 2023, and I think it's very widely accepted that the 2020s will be the decade of artificial intelligence and the growth and explosion of generative AI in our lives, it's pretty awesome that Mission Impossible right at this moment is giving you a movie about AI. I think it's done pretty intelligently. Not dissimilar to like a Skynet. Very much our villain here is the entity. This time it's just this incredibly smart AI that has the power to obviously infiltrate anything and everything digitally, but notably hasn't actually made its move on like what this AI wants to achieve since going rogue, if you will. And that'll be seemingly revealed in Dead Reckoning Part 2, which currently is dated for 2024. We'll see if that date holds, especially with the writer's strike and whatnot. But that's our villain, and I think it's actually incredibly effective. Having Ethan and Luther and Benji having the game have to try and attempt to outsmart, as Benji or as Luther puts it, play 4D chess with an algorithm. It thinks it knows what Ethan Hunt will do before Ethan Hunt does it. That's compelling, and I think it's like really nicely tied to the fact that Ethan Hunt as a character is always someone who can make that impossible choice, but also really cares about the people close to him, right? And like that can be perceived as a weakness, right? Think about his estranged wife, played by Michelle Monaghan, in like the earlier movies that was wrapped up in Fallout. But that, I think, core conceit, like it's probably one of the core tenets of what Ethan Hunt is as a character, right? The AI as a bad guy is actually kind of able to play off that because it can predict how Ethan will react when the people closest to him are in peril. To me, I found that compelling. So yeah, let's get set up in these set pieces, and we right before the first one, we have, I think, a really great introduction to awesome callback. You have Henry Czerny back as Eugene Kittredge, now the head of the CIA, I believe. Kittredge, of course, has not been in the Mission Impossible franchise since the very first movie back in '96, and it's cool to see Kittredge back in like basically a new role. You don't actually have to know anything about Kittredge if you haven't seen the movie or don't remember. I actually don't really remember much about Kittredge in the beginning, but it's cool to see him back. And I think there's it's a fun scene where you have Kittredge as well as Indira Varma and Charles Parnell, some other characters, all various government figures. You have them kind of explaining what the entity is as a villain, like what it can do. It's like a lot of exposition, but it's actually like fun exposition because you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. You expect something bad to happen, and like I actually found it really engaging because I thought something bad would happen, and then it's revealed that no, it's actually Ethan in a classic Mission Impossible mask disguise as his way to neutralize everyone with like a gas bomb, not killing them, but neutralize them so we can talk to Kittredge face to face, without any tracing from the AI and whatnot. Of course, Cary Elwes, his national intelligence director character, is a big piece of that meeting as well. He gets gassed. And then from there, it's kind of a race against the clock right away where our MacGuffin is these two keys, these keys that form into one another to make this like singular skeleton key, if you will, to unlock something with the entity. It's not really clear what that's supposed to be in the beginning. It doesn't seem like the characters know exactly what the key does. And it's kind of said that it's the source code. I don't know. I found like that one aspect a bit like confusing or like unnecessarily stressed upon, where it's like we don't actually know what the key unlocks. Like, I guess like because we have that prologue scene where we learn about the origins of the entity, and we know that it's actually located at like the bottom of the Bering Sea in a destroyed Russian submarine. We already know all that, but none of the characters seem to know that the key would be directly related to the entity. I don't know. That piece is a little confusing. Doesn't matter. Doesn't detract from the movie at all, because we very quickly go to set piece one, which is in the Abu Dhabi airport. Apparently, this was filmed with hundreds of extras right before his airport opened. Just, I think, a huge flex from McQuarrie. There's a huge logistical accomplishment to, I think, have this really amazing kind of chase scene. You know, you have Shea Wiggum, his character, and also his comrade, his compatriot, played by Greg Tarzan Davis. They are these two characters under Kittredge, kind of serving Kittredge, trying to take him in on behalf of the U.S. government. And they are like them and their subordinates are trying to chase Hunt down while Hunt is attempting to locate the key. Trying to find the key, find both pieces of the key, who has the key, who's trying to sell the key to somebody else, trying to figure out things via the key. It actually is a pretty effective MacGuffin trying to propelling the plot because no one actually knows what the audience knows about the key. And that I think the Abu Dhabi chase is really fun, and it's our introduction to a new character, Grace, played by Haley Atwell, this kind of like thief, sleight of hand, burglar type character who has been contracted. We find out to, get the key, and her and Ethan come into contact together, and that's our setup into Grace as a character. And Mission Impossible is so fun as a jet setting franchise. And they do it actually in the locations. It goes such a long way to actually shoot stuff in the cool places that you're purportedly visiting. So quickly from the Abu Dhabi chase, which I think is legitimately thrilling. Yeah, this whole other subplot to it where Benji's trying to take out and deactivate a nuke that's in baggage claim. Like it's a really riveting piece. And very quickly we go from Abu Dhabi to where everyone was flying to, and we go to Rome. And in Rome is where we get, I think it's an all-timer. I think this is an all-time Mission Impossible sequence. We have a car chase scene where Ethan and Grace are handcuffed to one another, and it's like the dominant hands, so they basically take turns, but they are driving a car through the streets of Rome while handcuffed to one another. So it's like one-handed across, and again, a logistical flex to do this on the actual streets of Rome, Italy. And eventually they go into a little Fiat 500, whip the fuck out of that thing. It's awesome. This is a really extended sequence, but I mean, I think that sequence alone is worth the price of admission. To see it a second time. I want to see the sequence again. I think that was spectacular stuff. And you have Shea Wiggum and crew chasing Ethan and Grace. You also have separately an antagonist we don't really know yet, this kind of heavy character played by Pom Clemente. People, of course, would know Pom as Mantis from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies with Marvel. Pom seems to be having the time of her life as this homicidal assassin character. Great stuff. We eventually learn, of course, that Pom is in the service of Gabriel, and Gabriel is in fact basically the human expression of the entity as a villain. He's someone working for the entity. The entity actually hides him, and he hides him from the internet. There's no digital trace of this guy anywhere in the world. And he's probably the weakest aspect of the movie. Gabriel, just as a villain, as a manifestation of the entity, who purportedly has a past with Ethan, early past, crossing Ethan. None of that's fleshed out enough to really make him have weight as a villain. And I think in general, Mission Impossible is not a franchise that had dynamite bad guys. Probably the best villain in the franchise is Philip Seymour Hoffman in Mission Impossible 3. Rest in peace. And as a heavy, Henry Cavill was great in Fallout. But it's a bit of a weak spot. And I actually kind of like that the real bad guy is actually artificial intelligence itself, because I think that kind of bigger picture thing makes sense as something truly going head to head with someone like Ethan Hunt, someone like Tom Cruise, So Gabriel's kind of just caught in between, where he's good enough to do what he has to do, played by Asa Morales, I should say. But he was a bit of a weak spot. From Rome, we get probably the one slower section in the movie where we're in Venice, not far away in Venice, which again, just an amazing movie location, as people know. and more things happen, especially with Gabriel, and this is where we re-encounter um, Vanessa Kirby's character from Fallout, the the arms dealer broker type person, and a bunch of stuff happens. And I should have said before, Rebecca Ferguson has come back into the mix, reunited with Luther and Benji and Ethan. Her character Ilsa is in the very beginning of the movie, presumed dead, not in fact dead. Rebecca Ferguson, one of our, I think, our great like action actors at this point. You have her in the last now 3 Mission movies. You have her in Dune, killing it on Silo, on Apple. Great actor. And this kind of all leads up to, I think, a really great example of like the AI fucking with you and the AI being a bad guy, where like the AI gets what it wants and predicts what will happen. And it kind of leads to Ilsa and Gabriel having like a sword fight on a bridge in Venice, a bridge over one of the canals. And like, it's like a really fun build up as like, uh, Ethan's trying to get there in time before bad things happen, but of course he can't because the AI is going to win, and Ilsa is killed. Rebecca Ferguson is taken out. Definitely a big hit for the franchise for Ethan, but it's not lost to me that Haley Atwell conveniently has been added to the franchise. So Rebecca Ferguson, bells for her. Great run on the franchise as Ilsa. I think Ilsa goes out in like a pretty badass way too. And I should say too, like I really should stress, like Haley Atwell as Grace is freaking fantastic in this movie, start to finish. She's in a lot of it. Probably this, you could say she's the second lead. And Haley Atwell, she's in her 40s, taken her a long time to get this role. People have obviously pegged her for stuff for a long time due to her, small role in Marvel with as Agent Carter. And I think people have really rooted for Haley Atwell and wanted her to do something big. She got her chance and she absolutely crushed it, man. She aced this test. I'm so happy for her. I think she's like really great as Grace, and like her and I think Cruz have great chemistry. And a big piece of that is actually kind of like physical acting, physical comedy, gesturing, and facial expression. Like it's not just all line readings too, but she's also incredibly credible as like an action star and like doing the stunts and things of that nature. So even though it's tough to lose Rebecca Ferguson, given how great she is, the fact that we now have Haley Atwell in the franchise for this final run here, pretty exciting. Um, yeah, and she's just kind of fun too, like having like being a burglar character, has all this sleight of hand, picking pockets, getting the key from people and things like that. Just a lot of fun. Um, and basically our final set piece here, in Act 3 would be this extended train sequence. Not just any train, of course, but that would be the Orient Express going through Europe. And uh, obviously, trains are not new to Mission Impossible. There's a nice, I think, callback to Mission Impossible 1, where you have Gabriel and Ethan on top of the train having to like drop down low as the train goes through a tunnel. Definitely familiar to Mission fans there. But this sequence is really awesome. I think a lot of the classic Mission tropes, right? Taking people out, assuming identities, using the masks. It's fun. And like, I think just in general, like a fast-paced train, a runaway train. That's just a great like movie piece and movie prop to do to propel action and like raise the stakes. And in that you get like this really jaw-dropping scene where you have Ethan drive a dirt bike off the top of a mountain to launch himself away from the cliff face, so then he can then engage his parachute and use that to fly onto the train that he had missed. And even if that action set piece is digitally enhanced in certain ways, Tom Cruise still did a significant amount of that stunt, and just kind of speaks to how much of a madman he is for the sake of cinema, for the sake of our entertainment. Like, the guy is, what is it, 60-40, 50-50 that he will die on set one day? Because again, he's in his 60s already. Obviously, I'm not rooting for that, but man, the guy goes for it. And the way actually that like comes through, where he crashes through the window with the chute at the perfect time, amazing stuff. And then of course the sequence kind of ends with like a pseudo like Uncharted nod, where the train's like falling off a blasted bridge and it's all vertical, and Grace and Ethan have to get through and whatnot. That I think all the action is like just so riveting. Like I said, I think my one negative would just be Gabriel as a presence in and of himself is a bit weak. He'll be in Dead Reckoning Part 2, of course, but didn't love him. But I do kind of like AI as an overarching bad guy when it's done well. Grace Haley Atwell is an amazing addition. Pom Klementieff as well, who now seemingly has become good by the end of this movie. Brought into the IMF, it seems. We know she will be in the next one that's been announced. I would like to see more from her as a character. Like, she clearly was good in the action moments, but it is a bit of like that silent Asian assassin trope that we get from time to time, unfortunately, in this sense that Pom's character doesn't really speak a whole lot. So I'm hoping that the character gets a bit fleshed out as part of the ensemble in the next one, because I thought she definitely brought it with the action chops. And Shea Wiggum, amazing hair. Guy looks great. He's good in everything he's in, and he's been killing it in supporting roles forever at this point. He's great. Looking forward to seeing more of him. Yeah, man. I think just I was kind of in a daze walking out of the theater. I thought it was just an absolute blast, and I think Dead Reckoning Part 1 is fun because it also brings back a lot of the series' spy roots. It's not a pure action franchise, even though it has amazing action in it. There's a lot of fun, like, traditional Mission Impossible stuff going on in this movie, which I think really rounds it out as an entry in the franchise. And just to speak to what I teased before, the Rome set piece, which again to me is the highlight of the movie, the Rome set piece is so tactical, so riveting, extended, but also really transportative because they actually did it in Rome and they're doing it in real cars and whatnot, right? It's absolutely hilarious that Fast and Furious 10, did a Rome chase sequence with the cars 2 months ago. And it is so clearly inferior to what Mission Impossible did because Fast didn't actually go to Rome to make that. It's clearly digitally enhanced. It's clearly just drone shots telling you you're in Rome, even though you're not actually in Rome. Like, of course, Mission Impossible digitally enhances things too, but when you actually do it in the place, it goes so much further. And also, you just have more advanced, more proficient, more skilled action choreographers with the Mission franchise. Like, it's kind of a night and day thing to me. And I even like that part of Fast X. I thought it was fun, but Mission just shows you just how much better you can do it. And to me, that's just kind of hilarious timing. And Fast X is down bad with that. Fast X grossed $700 million. I think Mission Impossible would love to gross that much as well. So we'll see who is laughing with the business angle at the end. Mission Impossible Fallout did pass that total as the highest grossing movie in the franchise. We're hoping Dead Reckoning can keep that momentum going. But yeah, man, it's one of the best Mission Impossible movies, one of the best action movies you're gonna get in any year. Like, you really can't do much better than this. And yeah, Tom Cruise, he is our cinema king. Love him or hate him. Plenty of people love him, plenty of people hate him. You can't knock the fact that the man works and he delivers. So I love Dead Reckoning Part 1. Let me know, though, how did you feel about Mission Impossible 7? How did you compare it to some of the recent entries? What was your favorite part about it? What are you most excited about to see in Dead Reckoning Part 2? And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.